is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Mick Shots, streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here are Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
And it's time for another edition of Mick Shots on this Thursday morning, May 7th, 2020. Bill Jones with Mickey Spagnola and Everson Walls on another one of those days that we've all been waiting for. Yes, this is NFL Schedule Release Day, and we're going to preview that over the course of the next hour. And there's so much more to get to as well. Mickey, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Bill, and it was good to see Everson there take a big last gulp of his coffee that he was drinking.
Sir. Green tea, sir.
All right.
Yes. The drink of champions. The drink
Very
of champions.
good.
And he is a champion. Everson Walls is a champion. That's exactly right.
Are you sitting at the edge of your seat just waiting for that schedule to come out?
Oh, yes, I am. I can't wait for it. For a season that we probably won't even play, you know?
Oh, come on.
Come on now. Be optimistic.
Can somebody give me a vaccine? We got vaccine.
Hey, this is the most optimistic day of this whole. We're entering week number 9 of our nation being locked down, basically. This is day number 57. And by the way, speaking of the number 57, I do believe that is the number of interceptions that Everson Walls had in his National Football League career. But this is the most optimistic day because we are looking ahead to what will be a season this fall.
So do you say?
Okay. I'm going to dial it down then, guys. I'm going to dial it down. I'm going to be.
We're gonna intercept COVID-19.
There you go. But we got a lot to talk about. The Cowboys have been making news left and right, and they just continue to sign these former first-round draft picks in free agency.
Well, Bill, they the last one they just signed, Camryn Irving, and I thought this was pretty good, and I'm going to brag on myself. Because last Friday, I talked about. I am, yeah. So just
Everson.
Just
no one else will. No one else will
seat.
brag on Mickey, so he's got to brag on himself.
That's right. No one else will. So on Friday in my column, I talked about all the things the Cowboys accomplished, but they had 3 more things to accomplish. One was signing a backup swing tackle. One was to find an inexpensive, experienced defensive end for the edge on the right side, and the other one, with all these veteran quarterbacks out there floating around, why not sign one of those guys to an inexpensive contract as a backup? So what did they do the next day? They signed Andy Dalton, to be the backup quarterback, and then yesterday Camryn Irving to be the backup swing tackle, or at least compete for it. So got one more step to go, and they got to get that edge. So it's Jadeveon
Clowney next.
Maybe if he wants to play in a 1-year prove-it deal. I bet he doesn't.
Yeah, and usually it comes down to what his salary demands are, and that was the beauty of this Andy Dalton deal, Mickey. When you look at what Dalton was willing to play for, when you look at his whole contract situation, I believe he was due to make around $17 million. Obviously, he was not going to make that this year with Cincinnati. But I thought it was very prudent on his part to go to the Bengals and say, hey, you're going to let go of me eventually anyway, do it now. And it only took a couple of days before he had to deal with what is essentially his hometown team, the Cowboys, and he got some money up front, which he was not, depending on what happens with this season, he may not get any money if we play this out and we don't have a season the way his contract was structured before.
So Bill, yeah, you're exactly right. And, the Cowboys were able to have another player just fall in their lap. All the things kind of met, right? Dalton becomes a free agent. They released him. He's willing to accept a backup role and at a backup role price. You mentioned they got him for a good deal. I mean, it's a 1-year, $3 million deal. He gets $1 million up front, $2 million base salary, and incentives that he can make a heck of a lot more if he has to play. So to me, it's an insurance policy for a guy that has started 133 games in his career in the National Football League. And this is kind of their John Kitna, Kyle Orton, Mark Sanchez type deal where you get a guy that has experience. Dalton has as many Pro Bowl appearances as Cooper Rush had NFL career attempts, 3 each, right? So to me, to get this guy, and here's the other thing that falls in their lap. He's got a house here in Dallas. So and he said yesterday in his conference call that, the COVID-19 thing didn't have anything to do with it, but it certainly makes it easier to play for a team and you don't have to move somewhere else. You don't have to move your family because in the offseason they live here in Dallas. And was willing to play for, like I said, $3 million plus incentives, and he put $1 million in the bank already with the signing bonus. And as you said, or as Everson said, if they don't play the season, he still gets the signing bonus, I would imagine. They're not going to cancel that out. So at least he made some money, and he was unemployed. Hey, it's May 1st. I don't have a job. I don't know if I'm going to play any games. And he took care of all that stuff by signing with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think it was very smart. Okay, and Everson, I am being told by our producer, Chris Bean, that you need to reboot your app, in case you aren't hearing Chris. And so until I get word that Everson is back with us, Mickey, let's talk about this. Dalton, I think it's easy for Andy to go to his wife and say, hey, this is the way this lays out. We don't know whether we're going to have a season or not right now. We've got no money coming in. I take this deal with our hometown team, and we got our bills paid and then some up front right now.
Well, Bill, and the other thing he probably looked at is he saw how other quarterbacks have kind of done a similar thing and rebooted their careers. Think about, what Teddy Bridgewater did in New Orleans. He gets a job in Carolina. Foles kind of rebooted his career. Didn't work out in Jacksonville, but he's in Chicago. You get Jameis Winston probably looked around and said, musical chairs are spinning, and I may not have a seat. I'll go take this 1-year deal with the Saints, and maybe the same thing could happen. And look what happened to Ryan Tannehill. He kind of bet on himself going to Tennessee, and then he ends up the starting quarterback. So I'm sure Dalton looked at this thing and said, okay, I still think I'm a starting quarterback, but if I have to be a backup for a year, so be it. And like I said, and if he plays, he makes more money. If he plays 50% of the regular season snaps and the Cowboys go to the playoffs, he makes another $1 million. If he plays 35% of the snaps and plays 50% of the snaps in the playoffs and they win a first-round game, he makes another $500,000. So again, he understands he's in a situation where he's the insurance policy. If they don't need him, okay, he makes $3 million. If they need him, he has an opportunity to make more if he's productive.
I got to say, I read a quote from him saying that he's working on the second half of his career. That made me a little nervous. Okay, I don't want him to work on the second half of his career here. That means that Dak is not playing. All right, so I was not happy about those words at all. If he's going to come here, I want him to be here for 1 year. If a Teddy Bridgewater thing happens for him, that means that Dak has gone down for one reason or another. So, I love my homeboy coming back home. I'm all about the Texas athlete. Me and Bill, we're all about that. But no, I don't want Andy to touch the field unless it's a blowout. I'm sorry.
and you know what? And he understands that by saying that, I think he understands that the market will be different next year because he got released so late. So teams have already drafted their quarterbacks. They've already signed all these other veterans, and he was late to the party because, as Bill said, Cincinnati kind of hung on to him until they finally said, well, what was it, Bill, the last 2 days of April before they released him?
Sure.
The last day of April?
And you can really relate it to Nick Foles at Jacksonville because early on in free agency, when obviously Chicago once wanted to have competition for Mitchell Trubisky, and there was a lot of talk that maybe there'd be a trade where Dalton could go from Cincinnati to Chicago. Well, they went with Nick Foles, and had Dalton been released at the beginning of free agency, he would have been right in the mix to get the same kind of contract that Foles got in Chicago, which is, I believe, $20 million guaranteed.
Whoa.
Yeah, to reboot his career,
Now that's falling uphill right there. 20 million versus 1 mil. I'm sorry.
So anyway, and the other part of this is, it doesn't, for us right now, as we are in day number 57 of this lockdown, it seems like the days are going very slow. But really, when you look at the next 6 months or whatever, this calendar is going to go real fast in the NFL, and before you know it, we're going to be through this next season, and Andy Dalton is going to be out there as a free agent and be able to play the market. That's one way he can look at it is, hey, he's back home, he gets to play with the Cowboys, even if he doesn't touch the field, whatever. Then he's got 6 months to learn under Mike McCarthy and these other guys. How about the other thing with this, where he rejoins now with a coaching staff going back to his college days. Where he played against, he split with Boise State when he was at TCU. Kellen Moore was a quarterback. Beat him, I think, in the Poinsettia Bowl, lost to him in the Fiesta Bowl. And then Scott Tolzien is also on this Cowboys coaching staff. He was the quarterback at Wisconsin when TCU played Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl and had their perfect 13-0 seasons. That's pretty interesting.
Nice. No, absolutely. And
good stuff, Bill.
And the thing, Everson, is, and I've always said this about guys that are backup quarterbacks. The best thing for a backup quarterback is to never have to play, because then you don't find out why they're a backup quarterback, right? But in his case, he's only 32. He's played 9 years, and his numbers are pretty darn good if you take out this past season when Cincinnati obviously was just horrible, and it wasn't just a quarterback play. But we're talking about a guy that the first 5 years of his career, he led the Bengals, and let me repeat that, the Bengals to 5 playoffs.
Say it again, Mick. There you go.
The Bengals went to 5 straight playoffs, and he started as a rookie. Now, the 5th year he led them, unfortunately, that might have been a big season for Cincinnati. They won the first 7 games. They were sitting there at 10-2 going into Game 13. And in the first quarter, he broke his thumb. And A.J. McCarron had to take over for the Bengals. They lost that game. They ended up going 2-2 over the final 4. And Dalton didn't play anymore. And then in the playoff game, the first round, McCarron had to start, and they got beat by Pittsburgh 18-16. But had Dalton been able to finish that season, who knows where Cincinnati might have gone. So he's been pretty good. He's the second best quarterback in the history of the Cincinnati Bengals. And the only one that was better was Ken Anderson, and Ken Anderson played 16 seasons.
What about Boomer?
He won more games than Boomer. He threw for more
Whoa,
yards
that's saying a
Boomer.
lot. That is
and
saying a lot.
And he didn't play as many games as Boomer did. Boomer played one more game than he did.
Interesting. And speaking of A.J., he didn't have A.J. Green this past season. And we've seen around here what it's like for a quarterback when you don't have a number one receiver.
Yeah, I mean,
I have to say, I had no idea that he was only 32 years old. I guess when you're starting as a rookie, you just tend to think that a player is older than what they really are at that point because they start off so early in their careers. At 32 years old, he can really offer a lot of advice to Dak. I mean, let's be real. Kellen is a great guy, but it's always good to have somebody there that's had more experience than you doing certain situations, and you can hopefully lean on that guy. I don't know how much Dak was leaning on Tony Romo when Dak took over for Romo his first year starting, but hopefully that kind of helped Dak's progression early on because he had a great first season. Maybe maybe Andy Dalton can do that for Dak this year, to where when you get those away games where he doesn't have a good game going against one of the better defenses, we know how badly he was in regards to playing against really good defenses. So maybe a guy like Dalton can help him through some bad stretches, because let's face it, guys, he's going to have some bad stretches like any quarterback.
You know, and along those lines, listening to Gary Patterson, his old coach at TCU, talk about him, you know, Andy Dalton is the type player that he's a team guy. He's going to do what he can to help Dak Prescott. He understands what his role is right now. And Dak talks a lot about the effect that Mark Sanchez had on him early in his career here in Dallas when he was the backup quarterback here. I think it's important, even for Dak now going into his fifth year, to have a guy as they build a relationship here, to have a guy that he trusts who can point out some things on the sideline as the game's going along, even where he might not have the same kind of access to coaches in those situations.
That's right.
It's good to have I mean, think about it. Romo had Brad Johnson in his ear as a young starting quarterback. Then he had John Kitna, Kyle Orton. So he, for several of those first 7 to 8 years in the league, he had a veteran quarterback behind him. And then these past couple years, Dak was kind of the guy. So, yeah, I think if he doesn't play, just having his voice there to go along with Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore and Tolzien and Nussmeier, that's just a plus, I think. And, again, it only cost them $900,000 more against the cap than it would have if they kept Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush's restricted free agency contract was $2.1 million, and this guy's playing for $3 million.
So how many TCU players does that give us, guys?
What's that?
How many
TCU players do we have this year all of a sudden? What's going on?
3 for sure that I know of. The 2
you got the two
rookie free agents.
Yeah, the 2 rookie free agents. Shewo Olanalua.
There you go, Bill. You got it, baby.
and Darius Jed Anderson. A lot of people are thinking that either one of those guys have a real shot at making this team. The Cowboys have an opening as a third running back on this team. And Olanalua, he's going to be challenging Jameis Olawale as that fullback type, although he's not he didn't play fullback in college, but you look at his dimensions, and he could fill that role, be sort of an H-back, caught like 60 passes out of the backfield at TCU. I really like the way he runs the ball between the tackles, too, and so it's going to be interesting. There's just, talking with Will McClay last week about him, there's just, there's not very many roster spots especially for a fullback type, and so there is competition there. And I do believe that if he doesn't make the team, that he could be a prime candidate for the practice squad. And then the other guy of the undrafted guys that Will mentioned to me that he liked a lot was the South Carolina running back Rico Dowdle. Or Dowdell, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but we're going to learn how to pronounce it pretty quickly, because there will be a season, and Everson, there will be a preseason, in fact.
Oh, no, wait a minute, Bill. Hold on now.
I want to know, when's this preseason schedule coming out?
So, Bill, to go on what you just said about the running back, I mean, they have room for a third running back if they want on the 55-man roster.
Yeah,
right?
they need one. Yeah,
they need
one.
And from a fullback standpoint, I didn't know much about this dude until I saw his highlights. And the way he runs, I can tell he's got the mindset to be a fullback, right? Because he does run pretty hard between the tackles. And listening to an interview with him, he sounds like he's a very willing blocker. And if he can catch the ball, who knows? He just might challenge Olawale for that fullback spot. Keep an eye on this guy.
And he's a smart guy, too. Graduated in 3.5 years from TCU.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. When you start talking about players like that, guys, you have to get him in open field. If he's going to play that H-back, you give him the ball at the right time, he's going to look for somebody to run over in the secondary. That might be a nice transition to use him in specialty situations, goal line, short yardage, and be able to open up the game and give you some options versus run and pass. That would be pretty good.
Let me ask Chris Beam, our producer. We need to take a break here, Chris Beam? All right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be back with more Mick Shots here in just a moment.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to...
Right above the subway!
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus!
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's Best Network. Come into an AT&T store to find out how to get one of our popular smartphones for $0 down, based on GWS One score September 2019.
Back to Mick Shots.
Back with Mick Shots here, and we are here each and every Thursday live at 11 o'clock from 11 to noon. Of course, you can also access it, archive, DallasCowboys.com, the usual places that you find all the Cowboys' great programming. Bill Jones, Mickey Spagnola, Everson Walls. We talked a lot about Andy Dalton in the first segment. Let's talk Cam Irving as Mickey, the Cowboys replace one Cam with another Cam, and you were never very high on Cam Fleming. What have you researched on Cam Irving?
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully this Cam is better than the previous Cam. Although, the Giants signed him for $4 million. I don't know how much of that is incentive stuff, but at least this guy has played games in the league, has started. He started 42 games between Cleveland, where he was a first-round draft choice, and then he got traded to Kansas City. He started 25 games for the Chiefs, and the other thing about him is he's played all 3 spots on the offensive line in the NFL. He's played guard, he's played center, he's played tackle. In 2018, he started 13 of 14 games for Kansas City. So again, and in his career, 2,800 snaps. So I like the fact that even though Kansas City declined picking up his 5th-year option, he started those games at guard. So maybe, what if you had a backup swing tackle who was also could serve as your backup guard too. That's a pretty good deal there. So I can't say I've watched him play.
Let's keep giving it up, guys. Let's keep giving it up for Will McClay, man. This guy's out there hustling. I think this pandemic is the best thing that happened to him. And I'm hoping I'm saying that jokingly, but he is on top of it. I mean, you've got guys out there that he's picking up, and these are quality individuals. I don't know about the Alvin Smith move. That was something that baffled me a little bit. But when you look at the other moves he's made from the draft on down to these free agents, and not just the undrafted free agents, but those free agents, those veteran free agents that are out there, to me, I think this is a big-time quality move. You can get security in almost every position on the offensive line.
Well, and it was a necessary move for this team too. I mean, they had to have a veteran guy who's a swing tackle. Yeah, Brandon Knight, as a rookie, started one game at right tackle last year, but they had to. And there's been talk about, okay, you could have Connor Williams go out and play tackle or whatever and start training him out there, but because he played left tackle at Texas, but. They needed a guy with experience in this league to back up both tackle spots. And, Mickey, when you look at Cam Irving last year, he actually started 8 games at left tackle last year. Eric Fisher went down on the 5th play of the 2nd game of the season, and Irving came in and filled that void for half a season before Eric Fisher got back. And Eric Fisher was able to play the last half of the season and then on through the Super Bowl. For Kansas City. So if you can have somebody like that, and they had a pretty good season in Kansas City.
Yeah, and their
offense
is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's another one of those 1-year kind of prove it deals, you know. If you get to play, maybe you get an opportunity to prove yourself. If you don't get to play, it's a 1-year deal. I'm assuming it's very inexpensive. And that's the sort of thing I think they need to look for at the defensive end spot too now, because there's still a couple veteran guys out there that you would recognize their names, and if you can get them on kind of a 1-year prove-it deal as insurance against Aldon Smith or Randy Gregory not being reinstated. You can't just assume that that's going to happen. You can't just assume that Tyrone Crawford comes back from 2 hip surgeries and he's the same Tyrone Crawford. And even if he is, you still want a better pass rusher over there for nickel downs at least. So Crawford could hold it down against the run for sure, but you just need that guy coming off the edge. And the only other guys you had out there were Dorrance Armstrong and Jalen Jelks. And so you needed somebody else, and you still need it. So I would imagine that's the next move if they can find somebody to do what Dalton did and what Irving has done.
I kind of wanted to go back a little bit to one of the unsigned free agents. What about this guy from, I think it's James Madison, Rondell Carter?
Yeah.
What do you know about him, Spags? He looks really good.
Yeah, I heard good things about him, and I heard they were really excited to get him signed. And some of the highlights I've seen on him sure looks like a possibility. You know, and I didn't mention Anai, the 5th round draft choice. And, you know, this guy, here's another guy. And I talked about all these things that just kind of happened for the Cowboys. Well, this guy was one of the top collegiate defensive ends and one of the best ever the University of Utah. And there he is in the 5th round for him. So, again, they just keep having these personnel lucky deals just land in their laps. And, you know, that might be another one. We'll see.
You know, and the other thing as far as the defensive end spot goes, with these free agents, it's interesting because they did it with Dalton, giving him some money up front with the environment that we're in right now. I haven't seen the details on Cam Irving, but there probably was bonus money paid in advance. Some of these guys, these defensive ends that you're talking about, the veteran guys that are out there in free agency right now, who in other years might wait until you get closer to the season at this point, and you might have a need in training camp. Someone blows out a knee or whatever, and you wait till the end of training camp to sign with a team, thinking because you don't have offers right now. But a team like the Cowboys, who have some money to spend, who have an owner willing to spend some upfront money, one of these free agents, you can get a jump on some of these other teams by going ahead and giving them some upfront money right now. And where they might sign with you rather than waiting because they aren't sure whether there's going to be a season or not, kind of the same mindset that maybe Dalton and Irving had. Yeah, I signed for a couple $100,000, and you could send your check from the government back saying, I don't need that $1,200.
Hey, I'm still waiting on my check, man. Don't make the government mad. I need more people to send them back. But, I remember when I left the Cowboys, Jimmie and I, of course, we didn't get along, and that was all very publicized. But one thing that I was always appreciative of Jimmie, and I'm sure he was appreciative as well, he was thinking, you need to get the hell out of here right now. I want you gone immediately. I want you out of my hair. And that was the same way I was thinking. I wanted to go ahead and get away from this situation so that I can embed myself quickly into another organization's plans for the off season. I didn't want to wait until the off season was almost over before I decided to sign. I wanted to make sure I got out there, got away from where I was, and really start a good relationship early on with the New York Giants at the time. So to me, I did not want to wait, and I wasn't comfortable. I would not have been comfortable with waiting later on in the offseason.
If you think about it, the same thing that happened to Dalton sort of happened to Troy Aikman in 2001 because he had if I remember correctly, a $7 million roster bonus coming at some point in March. And Jerry, he didn't want to have, or maybe it wasn't March, maybe it was later on, and Jerry was hoping to release him after June 1. That way they could spread out the dead money from his signing bonus. And Troy wanted to get released right away because he thought he had an opportunity for another job. Specifically, Norv Turner, I think, was the offensive coordinator in San Diego, and he was looking at, they're going to hire a backup quarterback. I can get that job. And he didn't get released, and by the time they finally came together and got released, the Chargers had signed Doug Flutie, and that job was gone. And then I think it was like a month later he decided to retire. But he had the same idea that Everson was talking about. Let me get out there quick now and find me a new spot before all the spots are taken.
That's right.
Hey, Everson mentioned Jimmie Johnson. Of course, Jimmie Johnson replaced Tom Landry as head coach of the Cowboys. He also replaced Don Shula as head coach of the Miami Dolphins. And, of course, Don Shula passed away this week at the age of 90. Everson, you got some memories of Don Shula?
Yeah, I do. I just remember balls just flying over my head. There was a lot of them. I think both receivers took a chunk out of my butt during that ball game. Duriel Harris, I couldn't remember the other guy's name, the Italian guy, wide receiver. He was a heck of a player. Both of those guys, man. I started off early with a couple of picks, and at the end of the game, I had to finally get one. And that was one of the more exciting games I think the Cowboys have ever been in with the Miami Dolphins. And that's including, what was that, Bill, Super Bowl 11? Or was that Super Bowl 12 when the Cowboys and the Dolphins played?
Well, it would have been earlier. That was at the 71 season. The Cowboys beat the Dolphins 24-3 in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And then the Dolphins. Then after that, the Dolphins end up going 17-0 that next year, if I'm not mistaken. So, back then you had the two great coaches going at it. And somehow I became the focus of this doggone ball game because they just kept coming at me. And that's one thing about Shula. Shula is a guy that will attack your weakness no matter what. I don't care how many times he's going to come at you. He's going to keep coming at you until you stop him. I stopped him early on in the game. They kept coming at me. We were going back and forth. Tony Dorsett was balling. Our wide receivers were doing a good job. And at the end of the game, Ron Springs had put us ahead with an amazing touchdown catch. Afterwards, they drove right back down over my head once again, drove right back down with a couple of big plays, and they were in field goal range, Spags. If you recall, I thought Von Sharman, I thought they were in field goal range before they decided to go back to the well one too many times. And he came at me. If I'm not mistaken, D.D. Lewis or Bob Brunick made him throw the quick slant pass a little high, and that's all the break that I needed. It came right into my arms and ended up sealing the ball game.
Well,
but that's the thing about Shula.
Yeah, Everson ended up intercepting the ball at the 6-yard line. And the Cowboys ended up winning 28-27. But
all he had to do was line up and kick a field goal.
They just needed to kick a field goal.
He got greedy.
Well, you know what he was worried about is they couldn't stop Danny White throwing to Tony Hill and Drew Pearson. And the amazing thing is we always talk about the comebacks that Roger produced. With 5 minutes to go in the game, the Cowboys fell behind 27-14.
Yep.
And they came down. And they scored to make it 27-21, and then Dennis Thurman intercepted a pass.
Yes,
and set up. And the next play, White throws the touchdown to Springs. They stop the Dolphins. The Cowboys get the ball back, and they didn't do anything. And here they came again, and they had to get the interception to be able to preserve. The Cowboys ended up intercepting Woodley 5 times.
5 times.
If anybody wants to be entertained, just go to YouTube and call up 1981 Cowboys Dolphins, and I guarantee you it was awfully entertaining. And Bill, it reminded me of how fast that Tony Dorsett was. Boy, he would hit the hole and just glide through there.
I think 1981 may have been his best overall year, Spags. 1981 was a big year for Tony Dorsett.
So was that Italian wide receiver Jimmy Cephalo?
Jimmy Cephalo, thank you, sir.
That's what I was going to say, and I didn't get back to it.
Jimmy Cephalo. That quick Italian was out there kicking my butt, man. We ended up meeting each other a little bit later on after we retired. We talked about that game. I'll tell you one more thing about Shula. He loved his kids. Dave Shula came here, if you recall. He was our offensive coordinator, right, Spags? In 1989.
Yeah, for
and God, did he make it 2 years? He was just that horrible. I'm sorry.
Yes, no.
Lawrence Taylor said that Shula's offense was so basic that he thought it was a trick. You remember that interview after the Giants game? He said it was so simple, he thought it was a trick. So I mentioned that on the Randy Galloway show. And so I think Dave Shula told his dad, Coach Don, that Everson is down here talking about me bad on the radio. and so Daddy Shula goes to Gary Myers, Spags. He goes to Gary Myers and goes, "Hey, what's going on with this Emerson guy? Why is he talking about my son so bad?" That's my two memories of Don Shula, man. He never wanted to say my name right.
What reminded me, 90 years old, he had the most wins in the National Football League.
Amazing.
The fact that, let's remember that he started off with the Baltimore Colts.
Yes.
And then after they lost to the Jets in that Super Bowl, the next year he got traded to Miami. They gave up a first-round pick for Don Shula. I had forgotten all about that.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
I do remember him being with the Colts. He actually coached with them as well, right?
Yes, both. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
and in fact, all right, he was hired and we need to go to break after this, but he was hired in 1963 at age 33 as head coach of the Baltimore Colts.
That's
in
right.
33 years as a head coach in the National Football League, Don Shula had 2 losing seasons. 2 losing seasons
amazing.
In 33 years. So some great memories there. And whenever you mention David Shula, I always think of Iowa State and Barry Switzer. And maybe we'll tell that story when we come back.
Please do. I want to hear that story.
Here in just a moment.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys, and your favorite football team. Get yours today in the Stadium Pro Shop or at Stetson.com.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to...
Right above the subway!
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus.
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's best network. Come into an AT&T store to find out how to get one of our popular smartphones for $0 down. Based on GWS One score September 2019.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
So, you're shopping, and that's when you see it. Aisle 23. Dr. Pepper stacked from top to bottom as far as the eye can see. The phrase too good to be true comes to mind, yet there it is. A rich, delicious Dr. Pepper paradise. Wait, did that can of Dr. Pepper just open itself for you? They all are. As if to say, so nice to treat you. And even though it feels weird to talk to a can, you pick one up and say, it's so nice to be treated. Dr. Pepper, so nice to treat you.
Back to Mick Shots.
Hey, if I told you this shave is on, where do you think I'm going, guys? We're going to getjackblack.com.
Of course we are, yes.
Absolutely, because this week you can choose a shave product free with your $60 purchase. You can get a pre-shave cream. You can get beer lube. There it is, right
beer,
there. Lube.
Beer
lube. And also you can get post-shave cooling gel. All this free if you spend $60 going to getjackblack.com and use the code SHAVE.
So you do use it, right, Spags?
I do, absolutely.
I can't see you right now. Are you just looking gorgeous? Are you beaming? Are you just beaming?
I actually shaved for the show.
Are you getting out much, Mickey?
Not very much, Bill.
Okay. How about you, Everson?
Yeah, I'm getting out, guys. I'm sorry. I do a lot of jogging. I'm walking with my dog in the neighborhood. My dog hides from me now.
Doesn't want to go?
He hides. Every time I grab the leash, he's like peeping around the corner. Like I go left, he goes right. Yeah,
What kind of dog do you have, Everson?
A mutt. That's what I have.
Okay.
I have
all right.
You know, I'm from the hood, Bill. I have mutts. We don't really name them. We don't really know what they are. We just get them. You know, they're just dogs.
What's his name?
Marley, after Bob.
Marley. Okay. I've got two beagles, and they're about 12 years old now, Bo and Romo.
See, and you can tell you're not from the hood because you know what they are. They're beagles. I have no idea what mine
is. That's right. Yep. All right, Mickey, would you like to tell the story about Dave Shula and Iowa State?
As I could remember it, the Cowboys were getting ready to play Cincinnati, where Dave Shula was the head coach, right?
That's right.
1994, yeah.
94. Right. Switzer's the head coach of the Cowboys, and he said something to the effect of, well, yeah, you know, did he say it was like it's kind of like we're going to play Iowa State?
Yeah, I think the Bengals were maybe winless.
Right.
It was about the 6th week of the season, something like that. I don't remember where it was in the season. And in this press conference that week, Switzer said, this is And he really didn't mean anything bad by it. But know Switzer, and whatever enters his brain.
The fact that you have to explain this before you divulge it, that's not a good thing.
We just have to remember Switzer didn't have a filter, okay?
That's right. So anyway, I can think of some similarities with someone else, but I won't go there right now. So Switzer said, yeah, this is, we'd have these kind of games when I was at OU. You play Iowa State and you got to get them ready to play. And so the post-game handshake after the Cowboys barely squeaked out a victory in Cincinnati. Do you recall what Dave Shula said? You recall that handshake there?
I don't think it was a handshake. It was kind of a hand slap, right?
Right.
And he said something like, how's that for Iowa State or something to the effect.
Well, no, he said you can take that Iowa State and stick it somewhere.
So wait. So did Shula win?
No, the Cowboys won the game.
No, the Cowboys.
So he's bragging about almost
because they got close.
No. He was mad.
Close. The Cowboys had to come from behind to win.
Right. Yeah, but you still lost. Lost.
No, but he didn't say it like Mick. He said it like, take that Iowa State and stick it somewhere.
Yeah.
So
they beat them 23-20.
Right.
And I'm guessing it was a last minute field goal to win.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just glad they didn't talk about the maturation of cows and bulls and all that kind of stuff because he had a little quote about a young man not really maturing yet.
Yes. Something about something hadn't dropped.
Something not descending yet. It hadn't descended yet.
There had a lot of quotes.
Hey, between him and Parcells, the PC didn't enter their vocabulary.
No, it did not. And I have to say
which
this,
was
guys.
Great, by the way.
Can I say this? You're looking at TCU, who had a great draft couple of days, 2020.
Yeah.
And just great athletes, obviously. A lot of first rounders and really notable drafts and notable teams. If you have all those draft picks, what the hell happened to your season?
Well, the quarterback position is very important.
Can somebody tell me that?
It goes to show that quarterback position is very important, whether it's at the NFL level, the college level, high school level, you name it. And they were not good at the quarterback position.
They needed a backup, obviously, right?
There you go.
They went 5-7. They went 5-7.
Well, they did struggle offensively, so and that really hurt them.
And that's the thing, Jalen Reagor, who went to the Eagles, first-round draft pick, one of those guys you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
And that may be one of the reasons the Eagles are so excited for Reagor is that he didn't have much at quarterback at TCU, especially his last year there, and he still, he has that potential. The other guy, another guy you're talking about, Jeff Gladney, cornerback, who is a late first, and then Ross Blacklock, a defensive tackle. So TCU, they killed it come draft day, but I was wondering the same thing. How'd they go 5-7?
And the coaches up there bragging like, hey, guys, I got a lot of guys out there. They just let you know the talent we have here at TCU, but yet we're 5-7. So when you have a defense that still was in good shape, I really thought they could have done a lot better than 5-7 in the Big 12.
All right, Mickey, the schedule comes out tonight.
Yes.
And, in fact, on DallasCowboys.com, you're going to get a little sneak peek of it starting at 6:30 tonight. Going to get a jump start on the NFL Network at 7 o'clock. So what intrigues you about this schedule? We can run down outside of the NFC East. The Cowboys' home games this year will be against Pittsburgh, Cleveland, San Francisco, Arizona, and Atlanta. Road games at Baltimore, Cincinnati, the Rams, Seattle, and Minnesota. So
I'm wondering if, and not to mention cancellations or postponements, but would the COVID thing have any effect on the order of games. Like, do you want to play as many of your division games right away? Do you want to push them back in case some of the early games get canceled? I'm just wondering if any of that has affected the order of some of these games early in the season.
The thing that I worry about is the different governing states and how they will treat the season itself. You know, even different cities like Los Angeles, right now they're not trying to play any games. New Orleans, the Saints, you know, they're not trying to have any type of big gatherings because of the hot spot that they were in, especially last month. How can they have one governing response? Because it seems like each city has different rules versus another city. I think that's what worries me about going from state to state and city to city. Those road games might be a little tricky in regards to what the regulations might be in regards to COVID.
Well, I think it's going to ended up being based on what happens nationally, because as they've talked about even starting the possibility of opening up facilities here in the next couple of weeks, it has to be a national thing. It can't be state to state like, well, Texas, they don't care. Anybody can go out and do what they want. Let the Cowboys practice. Right. Well, in New Jersey, they're probably not letting the Giants and the Jets do that.
There you go. Thank you,
so
Spags.
to make it equitable, it's got to be league-wide. And I think that if the season starts on time, it'll be league-wide. The other thing I was wondering is, you know, do you want to, you know, push as many of the, say, the Chargers and Rams and 49ers home games back further and make them go on the road so teams don't have to go into California, or the same thing, teams don't have to go into New Jersey that early in the season if it starts on time? That's what I was kind of wondering about on if any of that affects the orders of the games.
I think basically once they're ready to go, they're going to be ready to go. But I do think that they may look at it that way right now as they make out the schedule, that if you push back, especially the New York, the two New York teams, you got the same thing going on throughout the Northeast, really, Massachusetts, Buffalo, whatever, where you might start them on the road. But I think, to answer the first part of your question, do you play more division games early in anticipation? What if you had a disruption of the season? I think if you had a second wave of this, a disruption of the season, the chances of resuming the season are so remote that just look at what's going on with the NBA right now. I mean, in the NHL, where it ended March 15th, and here we are May 7th, and we have no idea whether they're going to be able. I mean, it doesn't look good that they're going to be able to resume, although they're holding out hope. So I think if there's a disruption in the season in any way, it's going to be a delayed start of the season more so than something happens in November. I think something happens in November, it's probably crashed. That it's not going to resume at any point.
And that's the thing. I think everyone needs to be ready for could be a major shift in when we play. Football may be moved to the winter. Instead of the fall. Baseball could be moved further down the line, maybe with an abbreviated season, and then try to catch up again in 2021. I'm wide open. I'm sure that the NFL is as well in regards to what their options might be.
It would also be interesting to see how, if they do play games, are they going to put 70 and 90,000 people in the stadium? They're going to restrict it.
I'm going to be mailing in my cardboard cutout. I'm just telling you right now. I'm mailing mine in.
You ain't showing up there.
I've already got mine. Right? I've already got mine. Yeah, it's already cut out.
Well, and I was thinking, of us too, covering games. You just say, okay, cover it off of TV. You ain't going to games. You ain't traveling to games. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff still up in the air.
But
again, they are talking about phasing in, opening the facilities, letting a few people in the facilities. I would imagine it would be the coaches, and then at some point trying to get the players in there. I'm sure we're the last ones in the door, right?
But I do think that they have a window there where, normally as it stands right now, the Cowboys would be reporting around July 22nd or so, since they're in the Hall of Fame game on August 7th, whatever that date is. I mean, you push it back. Let's say training camp started in September. The regular season starts in October. Then you're pushing back to where the Super Bowl would be played March or whenever. So they've got a window where you can slide it back a couple of months and still play through the winter months.
And like you say, you can, like I said, you can abbreviate the schedule, as you guys were saying earlier. Let's just get the district, the division games out of the way, and if I don't know, can they just go on a whim? Can they say, okay, we're going to start off divisional games and then schedule more during the season? Spags?
Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be the interesting thing there for sure.
Yeah. Crazy.
Hey, Bill, and since we're talking about the future, I ran across this on NFL.com, and I don't know how they projected this because it's too hard to figure out when it's real. But they ended up projecting the compensatory picks for 2021 draft, and the way they figured it out, and the equation takes into so many factors. On how many guys you lost, how many guys you replaced, how much guys got paid, how much you paid your guys to bring them in. But whoever did it had the Cowboys coming up with the most compensatory picks for 2021. He was saying, or whoever figured it out, the computer, that the Cowboys would get 4 compensatory picks, one each in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th round. So that would be a windfall, and it kind of makes the trade up for Biadasz, giving up your 5th-round pick next year, insignificant if you get all those picks ahead of time. Yes. So the Cowboys had the most with 4. There was a couple teams with 3, and then the majority of the teams were projected to get 2.
Speaking of the center, Tyler Biadasz from Wisconsin, who they traded up to take the last pick of the 4th round. Who do you think is going to be the starting center for this team when the season does start?
Oh, I got a feeling it might be Tyler Biadasz.
Yes.
And if it's not in game 1 or 2, I bet by halfway through the season, he's the starting center. I just think they like the idea of having Joe Looney, the backup center guard. Mm-hmm. And if this guy, and look, this guy played center last year. He actually called line shifts. He actually had to call out blitzes. No one on the team right now before he was drafted had played center in the NFL last year because when Looney played, or at least started, he started at guard the one game. So I like the fact that this guy had his hand on the ball last year.
And he's got the pedigree as well. I mean, the school he comes from, they're known for offensive linemen. To me, it's a no-brainer. If he doesn't come in and make an immediate impact, I'd be extremely surprised, Spags.
I agree. And assuming he's healthy, and he's had some injury issues the last couple of years, and coming off a shoulder surgery this offseason. But I think that they're looking at it that Looney and Biadasz are at the center position. And if Biadasz is ready, they go with him. If not, then Looney's ready. Looney starts to start the year, and Biadasz, and the only reason he wouldn't be ready, I think, is because he doesn't have the off season or an injury. And then you got Williams and McGovern battling it out for the left guard spot. And the other part of this, Mickey, when you talk about their needs, they really haven't replaced Xavier Su'a-Filo, who left in free agency as a veteran inside guy.
Well, that's going to have to be the loser of the McGovern-Williams battle. would be the backup guard, I would think.
Right, but still, even from an inventory standpoint, you like to have another veteran guy in there in the mix anyway.
Well, maybe they're looking at this Irving guy as
that's what I was going to say, Spags. That would be perfect for what his signing is for.
Yeah.
That's why McClay is the man. That's why Will McClay is the man.
And if you think about it and go back to Everson's 1989 season, the Cowboys drafted Mark Stepnoski in the 3rd round. If I remember correctly, Rafferty started the season, and about halfway to 2/3 through the season, Stepnoski took over because they knew he was going to be the future center. So ain't going anywhere in this 1-15 season, right? So might as well get him in there and get him seasoned for 1990. So
what do you think an old veteran like Rafferty was like? I don't think he put up much of a fight. He's like, "Thank you, you can have this."
Well, and the same thing happened to Ed Too Tall Jones, right, when they wanted to start Tony Tolbert at the end of the season.
Yes.
And everybody, media, I said everybody, us media people, made a big deal out of it because it was going to break Ed's consecutive start streak, right?
That's true.
And so when Jimmy figured out, this all started, and I think it was either the second to the last game of the season or the last game, and Jimmy said, okay, I'll start him, let him play 2 series, and I'll get Tolbert in there, right? And the funny thing was Ed was like, what's the big deal? He goes, I'm not coming back here next year. It doesn't matter. But it mattered to us media guys.
All right, I think we've lost Everson. And Mickey, we are out of time on this edition of Mick Shots. A reminder, 6:30 this evening. 6:30 this evening right here. It's the schedule show, and that's when you will find out that the Cowboys are hosting the New York Giants in the regular season.
Is that where you're putting your money, Bill? It's going to be the Giants?
Okay, that's my only prediction. The Cowboys host the Giants in the season opener. We'll talk at you again next week here on Mick Shots.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!